I'm Pam Fox at pamfox.org, and in this video I'm going to be doing a Q&A from a question that comes from one of my support groups. This question comes from Darryl, and he says he's wide awake at 3 a.m. with spasms in my sternum. Just what I need, sitting propped up. Any ideas for relief? Lots of gurgling noises in my chest or stomach area, can't pinpoint it. And so in today's video, I'm going to try to explain why Darryl and others are getting spasms in the sternum, especially in the middle of the night. For many people with GERD and LPR with hiatal hernia, we can get woken up in the middle of the night with symptoms like reflux or anxiety or pain at the herniated site or at the sternum rib cage or diaphragm. And so I'm going to try to attempt why that is, and I'm also going to give my recommendations on one thing that you can do that may give you instant relief, or that you can practice that may give you relief in time for this particular symptom. Okay, so I've got my board here. When it comes to the middle of the night having spasms or pain at the sternum, what we need to do first is visualize what's happening internally. And I know this is difficult for many of us to do because we can't see what's happening inside of our body. And this is the great mystery when it comes to the human body. You know, we think we know our own bodies, but when it comes to what's going on internally, we just don't, unless we can go and have a test done where they, you know, go in with the cameras and take a look at everything. So what I need you to do, Darryl, is to try to visualize what's happening internally at that tender site when you're symptomatic. So I'm going to draw a little picture here. Normally, our stomach is supposed to be located down here below the diaphragm. And your lower esophageal sphincter would be somewhere just at the top of your stomach, but below the diaphragm. Okay, and so this is the valve that is supposed to clamp down tight in the presence of stomach acid when the food is being digested, so that nothing can rise up. Okay, so then of course in the case of hiatal hernia, or what I call pre-hiatal hernia, your stomach then is herniated through the diaphragm. So the little bit of your stomach is up here in the chest cavity, which means, you know, you've got your heart and your lungs up here. And so now this lower esophageal sphincter is here, is right here. And so there can be pressure on that, which can cause then contents of the stomach to rise up and cause heartburn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a picture of someone lying down. And so then what happens when we're lying down? So here I've just drawn a horizontal line indicating that the person is lying down. This is, oh shoot, this is all reversed because I'm streaming live, but this indicates the stomach. I should have drawn it backwards. This indicates your hiatal hernia. Whoops. Okay, this shows where your stomach has gone through the diaphragm, and this is just the esophagus. So I wanted to show this because when we're lying down now, we don't have the advantage of gravity, right? Gravity is here. Okay, so in other words, when we're standing up, which doesn't always make a difference. I mean, we can be symptomatic in any position. Everybody's different. But when we're standing up, we have the advantage of gravity, at least the stomach moving downward because of gravity. But when we're lying down, we don't have that advantage. So in the night when we're breathing and the diaphragm is moving like this, and your stomach is obstructed within that diaphragm, and there's pressure on your lower esophageal sphincter, a lot of things are happening. One is you have an obstruction in your diaphragm. So the tissues of the diaphragm here are going to be tender and irritated. The tissues of the stomach here, where the diaphragm is essentially like a belt wrapped around your stomach, those tissues of the stomach are going to be tender and irritated. if you're getting any acid coming up into the esophagus, that acid is going to likely burn the tissues of the lower esophageal sphincter here and the tissues of the esophagus here. So those tissues are going to be tender and irritated. Okay? So basically when we sleep, again, this diaphragm, as we breathe, it's going to be rising and falling, and these tissues are going to become more tender and irritated, especially if there's acid leaking up and pooling into this area here, this area of the stomach that is in the chest cavity where it does not belong. Pooling here, burning here, and that acid can just slowly kind of make its way into the esophagus and up even into, you know, we have up here further in the upper esophagus, we have another one-way valve known as the upper esophageal sphincter. And if that valve is relaxing as well, then the acid can come all the way up into the throat and even get into the sinus cavities and cause a whole host of problems. So that's the one we're talking about, you know, LPR or silent reflux is higher up. So Darryl, I hope that helps you to understand why you're having these symptoms. Now, you spoke specifically about spasms, so we can't talk about these conditions without talking about the vagus nerve. So once again, your stomach, draw a picture of a healthy stomach here. And again, when I stream live, everything's reversed, so I apologize for that. I'm gonna need to learn how to draw backwards. So this is your stomach, and this is your diaphragm, and this is your esophagus. You have to remember that the vagus nerve, or the wandering nerve, innervates your stomach. So here's the vagus nerve coming down the esophagus. It's attached to the stomach and down. So you have this main nerve, and then like any nerve, you know, it branches out, you know, like a root or like trees of a branch. So you have this nerve innervating the stomach, and by the way, this nerve innervates the lungs and the intestines and the heart and most of our internal organs within the thoracic and abdominal cavities. So it's all connected. And all you have to do is think about a pinched nerve. Maybe if you've ever had carpal tunnel, if you've ever had sciatica, what happens when there's pressure, especially long-term, on a nerve? It obstructs the flow, doesn't it? It obstructs the flow within that nerve. And so when we have obstruction of flow within any of the channels, you know, within our body, whether it's arteries, veins, lymphatic, you know, esophagus, larynx, we have to have good flow when it comes to all of the channels in our body, and the same goes for the nervous system as well. And so in the case of when it comes to digestive disorders, so we could lump in all digestive disorders, gastritis, esophagitis, GERD, LPR, H. pylori, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, SIBO, IBS, IBD, all of these gastric conditions. What happens with these gastric conditions is we have inflammation. We have inflammation of the gastric system. And so when we have inflammation, everything's swollen. And so the nerves can be affected by that as well. And then the main culprit when it comes to this vagus nerve being compromised is when your stomach is pressed up against your diaphragm, obstructing the diaphragm, hiatal hernia, or it is a torsion. It can be twisted. Your stomach can get twisted, or it can get folded. It can get folded from all that pressure, pressing it upward against the diaphragm. And so you can clearly begin to see how this nerve would be affected if your stomach is twisted or folded or being pressed up against the diaphragm. And then this nerve gets pressure put upon it. And so then again, long-term pressure or long-term inflammation, there can be a number of different things happening that can cause those spasms at the sternum. Okay, so again, you have to picture, really make the connection that where your esophagus comes through the hiatus or the hole in the diaphragm and it meets the stomach, there's this valve right here. And so in the case where your stomach is being pushed against the diaphragm or through the diaphragm, in the case of hiatal hernia, you're most likely going to have pressure on that nerve, which will cause spasms at that site, which is right by your sternum. Okay, it's going to be a little bit different for everybody, but for most people, it's right around the sternum, just below the rib cage. Okay, and so we can have a variety of things can happen. When we have spasms, we can have, you know, anxiety, pain, palpitations. Okay, so what can we do? Well, my number one answer to that question is always going to be, we need to heal the gut. We need to address what's caused, you know, these conditions in the first place, so that we can stop doing whatever it was that caused it, if that's at all possible. You know, like if you have frequent constipation, if you have frequent bending over, if you're frequently lifting, we need to take a break from those things. We need to address those things so we can allow the healing to take place. If you have a damaged or injured digestive system, you know, if you've been diagnosed with gastritis or any of these digestive conditions, you've got to address those, because if you have those conditions, that means you have ongoing chronic internal inflammation within the system, and it's never going to be able to heal. Remember, that's what inflammation is. It's the body's response to injury. It's the body's response to disease. It's trying to heal that, but it can't, because something is reoccurring and re-injuring that system on a daily basis, and it's usually going to be the food that you're consuming. Okay, so you've got to take a break from, you know, the junk foods and the coffee and the sodas and the alcohol and the cigarettes and the meat and the dairy and the eggs and, you know, these foods that are further irritating these tissues, the esophagus, the lower esophageal sphincter, the stomach, and the intestine, the intestinal tract. Okay, so as long as you continue to create inflammation by continuing to irritate and injure the tissues, healing can't take place. And then if you have a hiatal hernia, my advice to you is always to consider holistic and effective healing naturally, which means heal the digestive tract, learn how to maneuver your stomach downward and out of the herniated position, and strengthen your hiatus so that it can't re-herniate, so the stomach can't come back up through the diaphragm. With that said, what I wanted to offer you in today's video is something that you can try, Darryl, now or the next time that you're symptomatic, to help you get relief in the moment. And that is basically an exercise that I teach that allows the muscles of the abdominal wall to relax and expand, which gives your stomach. So if this is your stomach and it's being pressed up against the diaphragm, it's instead of floating down here below the diaphragm, it's pressed up or even through the diaphragm. You need to support healing by giving that stomach the room it needs to move down. And this is really, really key. And it's something that I talk about a lot, and I think a lot of people have a difficult time making the connection with, because it seems so elementary and so simple. But for any of you that have been diagnosed with these conditions for a long period of time, or if you belong to any of the support groups, you've probably heard time and time again that stress is a big culprit or agitator of a condition like GERD or your hiatal hernia. And the simple reason that is, which is very true, but the simple reason that you're more symptomatic when you're scared, irritated, angry, nervous, cold, is because in these stressful situations, your abdominal muscles pull in. Okay? And so what happens when our abdominal muscles suck in is they put pressure on your stomach. Okay? So one thing that you can do, Darryl, when you're symptomatic is to really support the abdominal muscles stretching, so they stretch outward and relaxing. And so I'm going to go ahead and stand up so that you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. But and remember, this is my left side. Everything's reversed when I stream live. But you can come in, you can lie down, you can sit down, and you can stand up, however you're most comfortable. And really just connect, first of all, with your abdominal muscles and relax them. Just relax them, let them all hang out. And then find your rib cage and just come over and place your hands on your stomach to the left and just below your rib cage. And really think about these muscles and relax them as much as you possibly can. And just begin to breathe. Just slowly begin to breathe in and out. And what you want to do is really focus on breathing into the belly. So if you watch my hands, you'll see when I breathe in, you'll see that expansion a little bit. And then when I breathe out, And during this exercise, at no time do you pull your abs back in. You want to relax them all of the time. So you can just do this. You can sit comfortably, place your hands on your stomach. If you want to apply a little bit downward pressure, that will give further support of moving that stomach down and out of the herniated position. But for some people, this will give relief instantly. For others, you know, if that stomach is really pushed up into and herniated and adhered to the diaphragm, it may take a lot of time to really manipulate that stomach down and out of the herniated position. But it's worth it to practice it every day to get that movement. Now, Darryl, one other thing you can try, I'm going to stand up one more time, is just, and this is just a really light, it's not a deep massage, but it's just a light massage, almost like a scratching. Come in and just gently, again, bring your attention to your abs and really relax them and just kind of scratch to help those muscles relax and let go. And then begin to, again, breathe into the stomach, really opening it up, inhaling and exhaling, and at no time pulling in the abs. So what this is attempting to do is, again, relax those muscles and stretch those muscles. The abs are, you know, we talk all the time about the importance of flexibility and stretching our muscles, which is important because muscles have memory and they will forget how to be flexible if we never stretch them. But the same is true for abdominal muscles, and we never stretch our abdominal muscles. We just don't, but we constantly contract them, and especially in a response to stress and just out of pure vanity, just to appear thinner, we pull our muscles in. So try that, Darryl, and let me know what you think and how it works out for you. That's it for today's video. If anyone is interested in further content on this topic, make sure to follow me here on Facebook. You can like my fan page or go over to my profile and hit the follow button. Make sure you hit the notify bell so you'll be notified when I go live. I also try to copy these videos to my YouTube channel, which is called Wonder Vegan. And I do have a website where you can learn more, and this is how I make my living. So if you would like to purchase a course where all of this information is located in one convenient place, you can do that at my website, pamfox.org. Thanks for watching.